Hey again, everyone. Welcome back to Slooh. Here's the second Clubhouse clip of the night, and I'm so happy you're here joining us. Any of you here that are willing to stay up in the middle of the night, depending on where it is in your time zone, it's great to have you here. I'm Eric Edelman, the producer here at Slooh, broadcasting to you live again from Smoky Hollow Studios at Slooh HQ in Washington Depot, Connecticut. But as like last show, tonight we're going to be showing you some live views from the wondrous and very nicely clear weathered Canary Islands tonight. And you can really see the passage of time from show to show, because if you this is the same all sky view that we were looking at earlier on in the night, but it's really fundamentally different. It's fundamentally changed. We don't have that giant bright spotlight to interrupt us and to take away from the beauty of the other stars around. And so at that point, when we had that big flashing light, we were focusing in on that. But with this quieter early nighttime sky or early morning sky, we're going to be looking at an object that is rising as the moon has sunk below, and get a little bit of diversity into our day here. And to accompany me on this great journey deeper and deeper out into our solar system tonight is somebody who hasn't been on a show for a long time. And it's really my extreme pleasure to welcome back on Observatory Engineering Community Manager Paul Cox. And he's showing up to us in a unique part of the feed. I'm just getting the logo off of him for a moment here. There he is, way down at the bottom there. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Eric. Good evening.
Well, welcome back to the Slooh Shows. It's so great to have you on. And really, this is the perfect show to do it, because it's going to really show what Paul has been doing and working toward for Slooh behind the scenes so fervently. And this here, we have a live image of what? Is that a marble, Paul?
Well, it's a fuzzy, tiny, very distant planet, Neptune, 8th planet from the sun. So, and this is a live video feed, the same video feed that we use for Saturn. So that gives a really good comparison about, how faint and how small this object looks. So yeah, it's not the best, but we've also, Eric, we've got some T1 images as well. And there's a special surprise in the T1 images I've just spotted. Excuse us, folks, for this funny little talking head down the bottom, but I'm actually in Dome 2 at the moment, which is why I'm just literally a talking head. So, Eric, there it is. There is Neptune with its moon Triton. But the treat that we've got is just below. You can see there are two edge-on galaxies. And I just spotted those. The image looks a bit dark on the screen show, but I'm looking at the original image at the moment, and they're like twin galaxies. They're almost identical, and they're just below Neptune, which is that very bright object in the middle. And you can see Neptune's moon, Triton, at about the 11 o'clock position. So it's not the bright star which is above. It's just that little smaller white dot just off at the 11 o'clock position.
I think it's switched on our screen, so for the audience, it would be at the 1 o'clock, just a little bit up
All
and
right,
to the
okay.
right. But I think you guys can figure it out. But
No,
this
it's
is
at the 11 o'clock position. It is at the 11 o'clock position.
it,
Right.
it's showing up inverted on my screen there. But this is really great to see, particularly because we have 2 points of comparison here, where there's this. This is our T1, the half-meter scope, and this is also here's our high frame rate camera, and which I see it shows in this camera view how magnificently blue the planet is. It's really I love the color that's coming through from your feed, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, we've had to turn up the brightness, which is why we've kind of got this background sky color as well in there. Although this is a high frame rate camera, when we were seeing Saturn, we had to run that at the highest possible frame rate to make the shortest possible exposures. It was running at 60 frames per second, just so that Saturn wasn't kind of blown out, so we could start seeing some detail in it. But for Neptune, Neptune is so faint. What we've actually had to do is turn the high frame rate camera down to, in fact, I'll just take a quick look. I think it's doing only about 1 frame a second.
Wow.
So what have we got? Yeah, we're on 1 frame a second. And if I turn up that frame rate any higher, then the exposures are too short and the whole screen would go black on us. But, you know, these are the vagaries of video astronomy. It's more of a little bit of a dark art, really.
And it really brings to heart sort of the difference between, while these are 2 planets, their situations and where they are in terms of how we can see them. Like I'm just bringing up sort of the all sky view here, and to again the logos being a little bit of a bother, but it's right over on this side of the screen here that you see Saturn versus Neptune is very much sort of not really visible in what we can see. It's supposedly right beneath sort of this fuzzy blob here that you should be able to see, or if you had a good enough telescope, you would be able to see Neptune if you looked in that direction. It's just dramatically different if you think back to the Saturn show that we just did, Saturn opposition, just the bright dot above Scorpius. There's a really sort of dramatic comparison that you can make.
Yeah, kind of outshining everything else in the sky, wasn't it? Eric, if you can, just hop over to the T1 image, because we've now got a color image on this. If it's possible at some point during the show, we've got another 2 Neptune missions on T1. We don't normally use T1 for planetary imaging, but if at some point you're able to zoom in, we might be able to see those 2 really beautiful little galaxies just below the planet. So it looks really cool. So.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, I'm squinting and maybe I can see something, but you definitely bring up a good point. This might be a good zooming in opportunity. And so as we're going deeper into this night and deeper into sort of this imagery that we're now capable of, could you tell me a little bit about sort of how we've come to this point, like how this is possible now for us? That like what have you been doing over there at the Canary Islands that has made this possible for us?
Well, of course, the main thing over here that we're doing, the main job is to bring. I'm sitting underneath it at the moment. It's doing a focus calibration at the moment. The new T2 high magnification telescope. This is so much bigger than the old telescope. This is a 17-inch telescope. And when we talk about the size of a telescope, we're talking about the size of its primary optics. So either the mirror or the lens on the front of a refracting telescope. And so we've been installing all of this new equipment. We got a fantastic new CCD camera on the back of this. I did share some very early test images during one of the pointing runs that we did the other day. They looked so encouraging, and everything is looking really, really good this week. So we've done all of the pointing models on that. We've tested everything. We're doing a focus calibration on it tonight, which itself has been running really well. If anybody wants to learn anything more about these things, Eric, I've been writing some updates on the observatory report page in the clubhouse. So if people want some more of the techie detail on this stuff, I explain what a pointing model is. I explain what focus calibration is, why we have to do it. And actually, I'll just go very quickly into that. One of the reasons why we have to do focus calibrations is I'm sitting in 36 degrees Fahrenheit at the moment, which is 2 degrees C. But at the start of the night, it was maybe 60, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And obviously, things expand and contract when they get hot and cold, and telescopes do that. But when a telescope does it, it changes the focus position, the focal plane of the telescope. So we have to calibrate it to the temperature. But the other major thing that we've been experimenting with while I've been over here is video astronomy. And we've seen some of the results of that after the Saturn show. We were here doing the Vodafone project, the Reach the Moon project, and that was all about live video astronomy, where we had 3 weeks of people controlling the telescopes all around the world, but primarily in Spain, from Australia, USA, and the telescopes here, slewing across the moon, seeing all the features, and that was all live video. And what we did was we extended that technology and methodology into our Saturn show last week, if you remember, the Saturn opposition show, where we use this high frame rate camera to show a live view. But we also, after the show, I recorded some short segments of video and I posted those in the clubhouse so that members could have a go at this new form of imaging. Well, not a new form of imaging, but it's new for Slooh certainly, which is called lucky imaging. And it's just a fabulous way of imaging the planets and the moon and the sun, in fact. And just to give we won't go into too much detail, but just to go into really brief detail of what lucky imaging is. When we were watching that Saturn opposition show, which I think members can watch the recorded show in the clubhouse still, we could see not an image like this. It wasn't this crisp image. It was coming in and out of view. It was becoming fuzzy for a minute, but then suddenly you'd land up with this perfect moment where you'd see this flash of this perfectly still, beautiful image. And that's what lucky image is doing. Lucky imaging is recording that video, and the luck comes in how many of those perfect frames, those perfect moments of atmospheric stability, how many of those you capture, because then you use the software that we provided in the clubhouse. It extracts those, it does a kind of quality filter on it, only takes the best ones and combines those together. And this is what you land up with. This is Dave Larkin's image, using that software, using one of those video segments, and the results are just stunning, aren't they?
It's just so incredible to see the gap between the rings, like just not even the rings themselves, and then there's the gap between the rings and the planet, and just it brings Saturn so really profoundly into view.
It brings it close. You know, we've seen actually some wonderful Saturn images coming out of Chile tonight. Chile's online tonight, and quite a few members have scheduled Saturn because it's at its best, so close to opposition. And however good those images are, they are never going to compare to lucky imaging, which collects together, you know, these video segments can have up to 3,000 frames in them, right? You combine a lot of those, the best ones, and you just up the quality level so high. And that's what we've been experimenting with. In fact, we're beyond the experimentation phase of this. We're into, we know that we can do it. We know how we can do it. We know how we can deliver that live to Slooh members. So all I can say on that is watch this space. because we've got some very exciting developments to come when you talk about live video astronomy of the planets, the moon, and possibly the sun.
There's just so much to look forward to, and so yeah, we're gonna have a slew, pardon my pun, of planetary shows really coming up. It's gonna be great, and to kick that off, we have this gorgeous experience with Saturn, where that was a wonderful way, I think, to start off this live video experience, and bringing us back here, we have Neptune still live in the skies as we see it from multiple feeds, and this is bringing in again just what we can see out there in the universe. And here is the high frame rate camera as well. It's really it's a treat to see what you've done here with all this equipment, Paul. It's so great, and you bring up some great points that there's a lot to be done and seen sort of in the clubhouse right now. I thought we could
Yeah.
show people around a little bit in what they could potentially be doing with all this stuff. And so if I wanted to learn a little bit more about, say, lucky imaging, like where would I go, Paul? Like here I am at the launch pad, but uh, what
Well,
direction would I head?
I- I've I've made a post in the main community stream. So if you click on the
Just
community link at the top of the page, and you can scroll down that, and you can see the Saturn post that I made, or use the search facility. If you type in "lucky" in there, you'll see everything to do with the lucky imaging. So give it a go, see what happens. The
oh
clubhouse is
goodness, look at all
really
that.
deep. We can only present a certain amount of it kind of up front with direct links. You really have to dig around in there. And I've also put in a great page in there about lucky imaging and the software, and that's in the Astro software workshop. So there's all manner of places in there that you can have a look at. So
And yeah, you're always going to find something new. And I think you bring up a great point that the I don't think we talk enough on these shows about the community page, and it's such a great place to really interact with different clubhouse members and to see what's going on, what people are doing, and maybe even
yeah.
take some part in it. And of course, there is that search button, which whatever you're looking for, whatever you want to find, I mean, trust me, it's there. I don't think maybe we've gotten to a circus elephants balancing beach balls on their head quite yet,
You
but
haven't seen
we're
that
gonna
one yet?
cover.
No, it's in
Uh,
there. It's in there.
it is.
You
Oh,
haven't
okay.
dug
You guys are
deep
gonna have to
enough.
check that out later. Then I'm gonna certainly do so. So maybe I'll meet you at that page.
The circus elephant group. Yeah, that's the one. So,
Yeah, I think that group needs to get more activity in it. Let's start that up. But
talking about
yeah, there's just
we're talking
there's so
about
much.
planets tonight, Eric, and there are two groups in there that people need to take a good look at. There's the Saturn watch group and there's the Jupiter watch group. So if you're interested in both of those planets, make sure you hop over to those. They've got a wealth of information in there about the planets. They've got all of the best images that members have been capturing in some great galleries there. So you can see, the history of Saturn at Slooh by going back through some of the old archive images and stuff like that. So everything you were talking about on the show the other night about the apparent tilt of Saturn changing over the years, you can see all of that in those groups. So it's really worthwhile having a good kind of dig around in the clubhouse, rather than just keeping an eye maybe on the homepage where we do try and highlight some of the best things that are going on. And then in that community stream on the right hand side, it shows you all the recent activity, and that recent activity is across the entire clubhouse. So that's another really good source of information to see what's going on in the community.
I think really the moral of the story here is that if there's ever anything that in the universe that you're passionate about, which I hope there is with you if you're here watching these shows, there's something here in the clubhouse for you to sort of engage with and somehow
Yeah.
interact with. Or
And if
really, if
there
there
isn't, let
isn't,
us know and we'll
yeah.
make it for you.
This is your sandbox, and this is our community sandbox, and so
Yeah.
it's great to have you aboard, and we'd love you to take advantage of all these resources however you possibly can. But yeah, it's been great to explore the universe today, particularly to have two different really severely different objects that we were able to explore earlier in the day. We saw the moon at its most shy, at its most quiet, at its most distant from us, with Bob Berman telling us a bit about the unique phase. And then with Paul Cox here tonight, we've been talking a little bit about Neptune and the potential in the clubhouse for more and more exciting planetary imaging and what we're going to have to look forward to in the months to come. Because really, there's a lot coming up. In particular, like next week. Well, it's not necessarily a planet anymore. It's a dwarf planet. We're going to be looking out for Pluto, and even further on, we're going to be looking at some very interesting uh, dynamics of these different planetary systems. Particularly, if you've been following mutual events for Jupiter, we're going to be looking at some of the last mutual events, which is when Io is going to both occult and eclipse the other moon of Jupiter, Europa, and we're also going to be looking again at another planet that's going to be photobombed by the moon. It's going to be a very interesting topic to not only hear about, but to see live in action. So lots of planetary stuff to come. So if that's your jam, we are here to spread it on some toast for you and give you breakfast. So look forward to that. And really, it's been a lot of fun here tonight. I appreciate you joining me for this show, Paul. Thank you so much. Any sort of last thoughts you maybe want to give our audience on Neptune or planetary imaging in general? Or
I would say just that we are about to enter. I mean, you've touched on it there, but we're about to enter an absolute planetary feast for planet fanatics. Because at the moment, I don't know if people have noticed, but Venus is appearing on the evening schedule on the first missions from Chile. So we'll be able to see Venus, and with Venus we can see a phase, just like we see phases with the moon. Then we've still got Jupiter. It's getting smaller, but it's still visible for the first few hours of the night. Then we've got Saturn still at its best. We've got Pluto, which is a fabulous object to do. Go have a look in the clubhouse. Do the Pluto, discovering Pluto activity. It's really easy. We guide you how to do that. Then we've got Neptune that we've been looking at right here, returning to our skies. And within the next few weeks, we've got its twin ice giant Uranus returning to our pre-dawn skies as well. So an absolute planet fest.
absolutely, and it's so fun to have planets in particular, just because they're always changing. There's always something new to see with them, and we've seen that on these shows. We've seen that with Saturn, with the evolution of the storms we saw from Cassini. It's so much fun. So
Yeah.
thank you for talking so much about this topic with me, Paul. I think that
A
this has been
pleasure.
a great show. And really, so yeah, and thanks again for joining us here for this Clubhouse clip. There will be many more to come, so stick around, and we are looking forward to seeing you around next time. But for now, this has been Eric and Paul for Slooh.